for the beginning of disc number 6. The time is 4:38.
And we have seen 24 minutes of this yesterday.
My name is Sam Johnson. We met this morning, but have you and I ever met or spoken before that interaction this morning that you can recall?
I know of.
Okay. And just so you know, I represent Jamie Markey in this matter, who's also a defendant in this case. So I know you've answered a lot of questions today, and I'm gonna fill in some gaps that I have in my list, but a lot of what I had has already been addressed, so I'm gonna do my best not to duplicate that. Same rules apply. Please allow me to finish my question before you answer. If you need a break, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I wanted to take a few steps back and talk a little bit more about your work and about what you do. So I know we talked a little about how many productions you've been in, how long ago you started. From what I can tell, not all of your work is in anime. Is that correct?
The vast majority of it is, but not all of it, certainly.
Okay. Are there, other than the Star Trek Continued, is it Continued?
Continues.
Continues. I apologize.
That was just a passion project.
Okay. Are there any other live action productions that you've been in?
A handful over the years.
Okay.
I've done some Christian films, and I've done some short films. And
are there subgenres of anime that you appear in, or your voice appears in, more than others? I don't know the answer. I don't know if that's a thing. Just wanted
I would
to
say
ask.
no, sir.
Okay.
Again, when you're talking about 300 plus project series, you're talking about every conceivable style and genre. Mm-hmm. Scary, funny, shows for boys fighting, mecha shows, romance shows, scary. I mean, it covers the gambit.
Okay.
And often I don't even know what I'm going to do until I get in there. I don't even know a lot about what I'm doing until I...
Let me stop you right now, chat. I know you saw this yesterday. You can't do this to me. This is the last video. We've seen 24 minutes of this deposition, and you will watch it again. I know I ruined everything with the spoilers, with the hot spoilers. I know I did. But we got to go through it again.
get in there, they go, "You're this guy."
Okay, so you don't normally get the script.
No.
Very far in advance.
Never. No, you don't get it ever in advance.
Okay. I know you've got some social media presence. I wanted to walk through and see exactly which platforms you have an account on.
Okay.
I know you have a Twitter account. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a Facebook account?
Yes, sir.
On Facebook, let's strike that. Do you have an Instagram account?
No, sir. I downloaded the app because of all the cool things you can do, like put funny faces and hats and weird things, you know. But I don't ever use it. I don't think I've ever posted on Instagram once.
How about Snapchat?
No, sir.
Any other social media platforms that you regularly use?
No, sir. And the only reason I've ever used them is because fans encouraged me to do them as a way to interact with fans.
Right. And your Twitter account, if I remember correctly, is verified. Is that right?
I think so. That means that they basically verify that you're you.
That's right.
I think it's true. There's a dot or something. Is that right?
There's a blue circle with a little white check mark inside next to your name.
I believe you.
Do you remember what you did to get that account verified?
No.
Okay. Do you know if you did anything?
I don't remember doing anything. In fact, when somebody said something about being verified, I literally said, "How does that work? Like, how do you do that?"
Do you use a publicity firm that might have done that for you?
No.
Do you use a publicity firm at all?
No.
So you do all of your publicity, your social media posting, your statements, all that.
Yes, sir.
Let me finish, please.
Sorry.
All those things, you generate those yourself?
Yes, sir. Or I have. Over the years, I have. This incident has been the first time that I have ever sought the services of someone to help. Okay,
so with regard to the statements and occurrences that are discussed in this lawsuit, you have been receiving some publicity help?
The couple that I mentioned
Okay.
in particular.
All right.
Attorney interaction, of course.
Any PR firms?
No, sir.
Okay.
The couple in Florida considers themselves kind of a PR couple firm, but I don't know if they actually have a name. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're an official thing.
Right.
But
I think I understand. And you are the voice. Is it Brawley or Broly?
everybody says something different. I've always thought it was Broly.
Okay.
But some people say Brawley. So.
And I understand that film, Dragon Ball Brawly, was the third highest grossing anime film in the United States. Does that sound right to you? Were you pretty pleased with that success level?
It was, it was a privilege. I was really proud to be a part of it. I mean, I played this character for 15 years, and he would be in video games and stuff, and when I would do events, fans would always say, "Oh, I love Broly's my favorite character in Dragon Ball. When are they ever going to do anything more with him?" And I would always say, "I don't know. Wouldn't that be fun?" And then when this movie was announced, you know, I was really excited about it.
That's a big deal, you know, third highest grossing. And I assume that brings with it a pretty significant fan base.
I already had, I think they already existed.
Okay.
I think. I don't, again, I don't do any analytics or count this or that, but I think my overall body of work over the years has, you know, has been pretty well received.
Okay. Yeah, your IMDb page says that you've been in over 356 productions. Does that sound?
See, I don't even know. I mean, I said over 300, and I didn't even know. I don't keep track. After a while, you just do them.
Do you ever have that situation where people, you know, if you're at the airport or Starbucks or whatever, do fans recognize you out in public?
No, and I think that's one of the interesting things about voice acting. You know, you're not recognized.
How about when you're at the conventions?
Well, I mean, there, yes, because people come there specifically to celebrate anime.
Okay.
And because of the internet, you know, you can look up, you know, people's faces and stuff and find out who somebody is who played this character or that.
What is Risenbull?
Risenbull was the town that my character and his brother came from in Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
So it was literally just
your fans.
It was, yeah. Two women started the Risenbull Rangers. I didn't start a fan club. I didn't ask anybody to start a fan club. A couple of fans contacted me and said, "We want to start a fan club for you." And I'm like, "Really? Okay." How fun, right? And they came up with the name based on the anime.
Okay. So it was based off of your prior work.
Yes, one of the characters that I played.
I do want to switch and talk about Jamie Markey, my client, at this point. How long have you known Jamie?
As long as she's been working at Funimation. I honestly can't tell you an amount of years. It's one of those things you don't really think about because you don't think you need to ever really know. But it's been as long as she's, if I had to guess, maybe 10 or 12 years, maybe.
And so did you meet her working at Funimation?
Yes, sir.
And were y'all working on a production together, or?
We worked on several productions.
Is that how you first met?
Actually, it's an interesting dynamic because voice actors typically record alone, which means you and I and him and her could all be in a show together and never even meet each other because we would come in separately and record our lines. But you might cross paths in the hallway, or you might see each other in the lobby. And many times you also would do a convention, and other voice actors would be there. I've actually met voice actors for the first time who I'd been in 8 or 10 shows with, and I'd never met them. But I met them at a convention because we were both invited there. And that's honestly how, more times than not, you actually talk to them more and, you know, get to know them a little more there.
So, did you ever, I know you said you've done some live action productions. Was Jamie in any of those with you that you can recall?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay, but
No,
y'all
she
did
was
interact
ugly.
at conventions?
Sure.
Okay. I do want to go ahead. What exhibit number are we on? 22.
There's a gap. No, we didn't mark anything. There's the gap.
How about 22?
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you. All right. I'm going to hand you what I've marked as Exhibit 22. And I'll represent to you that this is a cease and desist letter that was sent by your attorney to Ms. Markey. Have you seen this letter before?
No, sir. I was informed that it was sent, but I have not seen it personally.
Okay. Just want to walk through this letter. If you'll look with me in the first full paragraph, it says that the demand was relating to posts and tweets using the personal social media account, including @RonToy. Since this is sent to Ms. Markey, I'm assuming that's a typo. Do you have any reason to disagree with that?
Can I read that real quick?
Please.
This is specifically related to publication. I don't know. I don't know what that is relating to.
Okay.
Can I consult my? Is it a typo?
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that I
No, I
wasn't
don't-
aware
I-
of.
no.
Yeah.
This is the
Lawyers
first
are
time I'm seeing
humans
it too.
We have typos, so it happens. I want to walk through with you the statements that your cease and desist letter addressed by Ms. Markey. And the first one I want to look at is February 6th, 2019 at 9:05 p.m. And there are some quotes in the letter, but if you'll turn back to the fifth page, there's an image of the actual tweet.
Having to realize his
And
friend.
I want to give you a minute to look at it.
Okay.
All right. Is your name mentioned anywhere in this tweet?
No, sir.
Okay. What in here is there to let you know that it references you?
Well, who is she responding to? Do we have the previous tweet? Clearly, she's responding to someone, right?
Object non-responsive. I'm just asking, based on what you can see on the page, is there anything that would let someone know that it's actually referencing you?
On this page alone?
Correct.
No, I don't see any. I do not see my name here.
Okay. What are the statements of fact? If we assume that this is about you, what are the factual statements that are made about you in this tweet? Something that could independently be verified by someone. If you read through it.
Well, this tweet alone, nothing.
Okay.
But she tweeted before this. When she initially tweeted her account of something.
Object non-responsive. We'll get to her other tweets.
Okay.
I'm only asking about this one. So.
No, there's nothing in here except a lot of anger that I can see.
Object
I'm
non-responsive.
sorry, what was your question?
The question is just, what in this particular tweet on February 6th is a statement of fact about you?
Nothing.
Okay. And then in your letter, sorry to make you flip back and forth.
Sure.
But in the paragraph that goes from the first page to the second page that your lawyer wrote, it says that this tweet implies that you committed some type of criminal offense. Do you see anything in this particular tweet that gives that impression that a criminal offense was committed?
No, sir, but you have to take the context of the entire thing.
Object non-responsive after,
I said no,
sir.
sir. I'm sorry. That was my response. Sorry.
You're fine. That's my job to clean it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is your job to clean up.
That's all my questions about that tweet. I'm going to skip ahead from the order that they're addressed in the letter to the next one chronologically, which was on February 7th, 2019. And that is on the last, page 11.
Okay.
Do you see that tweet? It says, "What would Jesus do?"
Page 11? Oh, goodness.
Yeah, the 11th.
I looked down here and I saw 1/1 and thought it was 11.
No problem.
So sorry. 8. Am I blind? 7. Page 8 is the last page I have.
It's the one before that. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Give yourself a moment to read that.
Okay.
And my questions might sound familiar to you. The first one is your name stated in this tweet?
No, sir.
Is there any direct reference to you that you can see?
No, sir.
If we assume that this tweet was about you, what is the statement of fact about you in here?
No statement of fact about me in this tweet.
Thank you. I want to go to the last page in this, and there's no date here, but there's another. It's a little harder to tell. I can't tell. I think it's a tweet also. But there's one that's attributed to Ms. Markey. Do you see that on this page as well?
Here.
The third one down.
Yes.
Yes. Give yourself a moment to read that.
Okay.
All right. What is the statement of fact about you in this particular tweet as you read it?
The only thing that I can see is where she says, fighting back does not in any way, shape, or form make me as bad as Vic. I would say that tends to create a statement of fact that I'm a bad person.
Is that the only statement of fact that you see in there?
Yes, sir.
Do you see anything in that tweet that implies, as you read it, that you are a bad person akin to a criminal, or that there's any reference to criminal activity in this tweet?
Not in this tweet, no.
Thank you. All right, and then the last one is that I want to talk about is the one. It's on February 8th, and it's I think might be the one you had in mind a few moments ago. The one that I'm going to refer to as Ms. Markey's statement.
Okay.
So if I use that term, this is what I'm referring to.
Yes, sir.
Counsel,
Okay.
real quick, we're going to be here tomorrow. Jury didn't come to a decision, so we're in here tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thanks. So, and I want to. Have you seen this tweet before? It's pretty lengthy. Do you recall having read it before today?
I'm pretty sure I read it. Somebody called me a friend and said, Jamie Markey just tweeted. And I'm like, Jamie? What about? And then I read it, or somebody like screen capped it and sent it to me.
Okay. I actually want to walk back to the second page of this exhibit, the actual letter that your attorney wrote for you. If you'll go to the second page, because there are a few statements that they point out that I just want to work through with you.
Okay.
They point out the statement that that's made that you, quote, gave almost all the women at my job the creeps, unquote. Do you see that in there?
I do.
Okay. And then there's the statement that at the time of the incident, Ms. Markey's writing about that you whispered something sexual in nature to her.
Correct.
All right. Do you have any evidence that you're aware of that Ms. Markey did not actually believe these statements to be true at the time she wrote them?
At the time she wrote them or at the time they happened?
At the time she wrote them.
I can't answer for her. I don't know what's in her mind. I can't say whether she believed it was true or whether she was joining in to pile on. I don't know.
Are you, and I know you're not an attorney, sir, but are you aware of anything in the Texas Penal Code that is defined as being simple assault?
No, sir.
You're not aware of any crime or statute that's referred to that?
I mean, I've heard the term. I don't know the definition or the details of it.
Okay, so sitting here today, you don't know if that's actually a crime under Texas law?
Well, I don't know what it is, so, and I don't know if it's a crime.
I don't either. That's why I was asking.
I don't know. I
Do you
don't know
know,
about
are there any
Texas law.
crimes in the Texas Penal Code that legally classify a convicted defendant as a predator? Are you aware of any of that?
I don't know.
Would you agree with the statement that the way one person perceives a situation is not always going to be the same way everybody perceives that same situation?
Of course.
So is it possible that Miss Markey perceived pain when you pulled her hair in the lobby that day and that you were unaware of that? And the reason I ask is you testified earlier.
I had no indication when it happened or in the years that followed that we've been friends and interacted that there was anything offensive or painful about it. In my mind, my recollection, it was very casual, playful interaction, as happens all the time in the hallways of Funimation.
But you would agree that she certainly could have perceived it differently than you?
Sure.
Is it your testimony today that you did not say something sexual into Miss Markey's ear at that moment that you were grabbing her hair?
Sorry.
You're good.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you recall if you said anything into her ear?
I don't recall that I said anything. If I did, it was literally something about, oh, I love your hair, or love it. It's awesome. You know, it was that kind of thing.
Okay. Other than the statements that we've discussed today, are there any other statements by Ms. Markey about you that are statements of fact that you allege to be defamatory in nature that you're aware of?
At present, that I'm aware of, no.
I'm gonna...
What's the number of this exhibit?
This was Exhibit 22. I know you've talked today about defendants having reached out to conventions and encouraging them to end their relationship with you or cancel a contract. Sitting here today, are you aware of any conventions that Jamie reached out to for that purpose?
I'm going to answer, and you're going to say non-responsive.
Objection, non-responsive.
Stay there. We just saved ourselves 6 or 7 seconds. I have been told by several convention organizers who had booked me to be at their show that they were not inclined to cancel me until voice actors started coming out, because they weren't going to give a lot of credence to just a bunch of people on the internet, you know. But when the voice actors came out, and we all know who the voice actors were that came out, so I mean, it's kind of an assumption. They didn't call me and say Jamie Lynn Markey and Monica Rial, you know what I mean, contacted us, but they did tell me that it was the public comments by the voice actors that led them to ultimately cancel me.
So it was the public comments, not necessarily a direct contact by a particular voice actor to the convention?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if there was any direct contact or not.
So sitting here today, you don't know of any conventions that Jamie directly reached out to, correct?
Not yet, no, not at present.
And then I think it was Miss Denbo at Funimation that you were communicating with while they were conducting their investigation. Is that correct?
Tammy Denbo, I think she's with Sony, not with Funimation.
Okay, thank you for
I'm
clarifying
pretty sure,
that.
is that right?
And I believe you testified earlier that she mentioned some of the people who had outcried
Yes, sir.
to Sony or to Funimation. Did she ever mention Jamie during that process?
No, sir.
He's just he's trying to eliminate Jamie from any sort of attachment to the damage that was done to Vic.
Looking at your original petition filed in this lawsuit, just tracking that timeline, did you read the original petition in this case?
This
what
one?
your lawyer filed to initiate the lawsuit?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm just
It
going to
probably would have looked very, like, what is this, Latin? I mean, you know, I just kind of trust him to do what he does.
I hear you. Well, I want to walk through a timeline with you.
Okay.
And I want to see if this sounds about correct. As far as your terminations from certain conventions earlier this year, on January 18th of this year, the Phoenix Fan Fusion Convention canceled your appearance there.
That was the first one.
And then January 29th, I think, was roughly when Funimation terminated your contract with them. Late,
20, again, I think, what did we say, 27, 28, 26, 27?
late January.
Yes, sir.
Okay. January 30th, Anime NYC and Anime Milwaukee canceled your appearances there. Is that right?
I'm sorry. I don't
okay.
remember the dates.
Late January? Does that sound about right? I'm not trying to trick you.
I know you're not. I'm not trying to be evasive.
Right.
I was a mess. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember dates
He's definitely tried
of
to
these
trick
things.
you.
I knew they were happening, and it was kind of a, you know, it was a accumulating thing.
I guess my question is, if the first public statement by Jamie on Twitter, which you allege to be defamatory, obviously Ms. Markey and I would not agree with that, but if the first one is dated February 6th, I'm trying to figure out how that could have impacted these conventions' decisions prior to the date of her tweets that the cease and desist letter referenced.
It didn't impact the conventions prior to her public statement, obviously. But there were certainly events that canceled me after, and there are presumably events and production companies who might have had me, and when they saw these things, they decided not to.
Object non-responsive after the word obviously. Did you ever have any conversations with Chuck Huber about Jamie's online posts or tweets?
Yes.
What were those conversations?
He contacted me shortly after she had posted, and he said that he's like, Jamie was my writing partner, and I've always had a great relationship with her, and I don't know why she would say this, and my response was basically, dude, you know, I don't know where this came from. I was completely floored when she posted that. And like I said, I've had many interactions with her over the years since this alleged incident, and they have all been positive and friendly. So I told Chuck that, and he told me that you know, that he was concerned because he had written with Jamie, and she was a writing partner of his, and they were good friends.
Okay. Did you ever text with him about Jamie?
I don't recall that I did.
Email?
Not that I recall.
What current model, what's your phone that you use? What
iPhone.
An iPhone? Do you know what model it is?
It's the X, the 10.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How long have you had that phone?
A couple of months, I think.
Okay, so since what? March? April?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay. What was your prior phone that you had?
iPhone 9.
Okay.
I've had every version of them.
Did
Don't
you
be
keep
an
the
Apple
iPhone
cuck,
9 when you upgraded to the 10?
I sold it, or I intended to sell it.
Okay. Did your text messages, to the extent any hadn't been deleted as part of what you testified about earlier, were those transferred to your new iPhone, your text message conversations?
I assume so. You know how you do the backup, and then when you buy the new phone, the first thing you tell it to do is restore from backup.
Right.
But as I mentioned earlier with the other gentleman, I don't like to scroll through 55 text message conversations. Once a conversation is over, I'll get rid of it so it's easier to find the ones that are current and ongoing.
You mentioned earlier that you have an accountant that helps you with your financial
Yes, sir.
reporting. What is the accountant's name?
Frank Pacella.
Could you spell Pacella, please?
Sure, Pacella.
Where is Frank?
He lives in New York.
Okay. Do you happen to know his email address or his phone number offhand?
Not offhand.
Okay.
I can provide all that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Were you scheduled to appear at a TekoshaCon in 2010?
Wow. That was a lot of events ago, and almost 10 years. I don't. Well, yeah. Wasn't that the? I believe that the rumors panel that he referenced mentioned TekoshaCon 2010. So I assume I was there.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you recall being uninvited from TekoshaCon at
No,
any
sir.
time?
no, sir. I wasn't there for. I was not there for several years, and then about 3 years ago, they invited me to do an event in Pittsburgh. It was run by the same people that ran TekoshaCon. So they invited me to that event, and I did it, and then they said, we need to get you back to TekoshaCon. And about like the following year or 2 years after, based on availability, I went back to TekoshaCon.
So there was nothing with your non-appearance at TekoshaCon that arose from allegations that you were stalking someone that you can recall?
No.
I do want to give you one more exhibit. I'm going to mark this as Exhibit 23. And I'll represent to you that that one's...
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
She's going to attack us if we don't keep the right exhibits
Okay.
down here when the
Stay over there.
deposition's over. I'll represent to you that this is a letter that your attorney sent to Ms. Markey in March of 2019. informing her that she needed to preserve all electronically stored information, data, all that kind of stuff. Do you agree that if you, whether directly or through an attorney, were instructing the other parties to this lawsuit to preserve all electronic information that might relate to this case, that you should be doing that also, at least as of that date?
I suppose.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Will you pass the kidney stone?
Hi, Mr. Mignogna. My name is John Volney. I represent Funimation. The first time we met was this morning before this event started, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I just have a few follow-up questions. I want to start out with the timeline. On January 16th was the date that the latest Broly movie was released?
Yes, sir. In theaters.
In theaters. And that was the same date that these social media posts started to happen that were accusing you of inappropriate behavior?
Yes, sir.
Did you, at that time, communicate to anyone at Funimation about those social media posts that were coming out about you?
Yes.
Who did you communicate with?
Justin Cook.
What did you tell Mr. Cook?
I was in recording, and for that Mononokean show that they tweeted that I was replaced in, and I had spoken with him. He was telling me, he was showing me the demographics, or not the demographics. What do you call it? The analytics. You know what I mean, of how well the movie was doing. And I was in his office, and I mentioned the Twitter stuff that had just started at that point, and he said he was very much in agreement. He was like, "It's a bunch of garbage. I know. It's just what a bunch of garbage." And we both agreed that it was, just unfortunate fan garbage.
Man, I hope Justin.
This was not the first time that this sort of what you called fan garbage had come out, coincident with the release of a movie where you provided a voice.
Or an anime series, not a movie, but anime series.
So this had happened before?
Yes, sir.
And so, did you have any other conversations with Funimation at that time?
Not that I recall, no, sir.
What does Justin Cook do for Funimation?
He's, he kind of oversees all of the directors, I believe. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I don't know what his actual title is. I want to say head of production, but I don't know if that's it for sure. He's been there he and I have been friends, I believed, for a very long time.
When was the next time you had any contact from anyone at Funimation about the social media uproar that was going on?
When the human resources woman called me and said that someone from Sony wanted to have a conversation with me.
Okay, and was the next contact after that human resources call the communication you got from Tammy Denbo at Sony?
Yes, sir.
And then, did you then participate in an interview with Miss Denbo?
We had a phone conversation where she raised the 3 incidents.
Okay, how long did that phone conversation last?
Maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. I don't recall specifically.
Was anyone on the phone besides you and Miss Denbo?
No, sir.
Did you take any notes?
No, sir.
How did that phone conversation end?
With her saying that she would take the information she gathered from me and review it with other people, I don't know who, and get back to me with their decision on it.
Did you consider yourself honest and truthful in your communications with Ms. Denbo?
Absolutely.
Did you, in that conversation, explain to Ms. Denbo that you sometimes had hugs and kisses with fans at anime conventions?
Probably.
tell me, how is it that you get signed up to be a participant at an anime convention?
The convention organizers will contact people in the industry and invite them to come for the purpose of, attracting fans to come and meet. The guy who wrote this show, or the woman who directed that show, or the guy who played this character in this show, or this artist, or...
Who handles it for Vic? Do you, Mr. Mignogna, take the phone calls and get the text messages yourself, or do you have somebody who handles this for you like an agent?
The vast majority of them are me, and it's because I've been doing it since they started. Even Monica can tell you that when we started in this industry 20 years ago, there were only a handful of very few anime-specific conventions, and they were much smaller. They were in hotels and, very small venues, and the conventions would contact us and just basically say, we'll give you a hotel room and we'll buy you a plane ticket. That's about all we got for you. And so we would go and sign autographs and do Q&A sessions with the fans and talk about Dragon Ball or whatever show the fans were interested in. And over the years, the conventions continued to grow. They kept popping up, but I had a relationship with a large number of the convention organizers personally.
So they would just contact you directly?
Yes, sir.
And would they do it via email, via telephone call, via text message?
Every way.
And so I understand from your earlier testimony, for some of those conventions you actually had a written contract, fair?
Not back then.
I'm talking about in January 2019
Yes, sir.
until today.
Yes.
Fair?
Yes, sir.
You had a contract with many of them?
Yes, sir.
And did some of them you didn't have a contract? It was more of just a verbal agreement?
Yes, sir.
When a convention canceled you, beginning, I think you say the first one canceled you on January 18th of 2019, and that was the Phoenix Fan Fusion event. How did that get communicated to you?
The organizer, Matt Solberg, called me.
For any of the conventions that you claim were canceled as a result of the tweeting by any of the parties here or social media uproar, have you kept records of the communication, like the text message or the email?
I feel like I have to a degree. There have been some of these conventions, a number of them this year, the ones that we're speaking of right now, that the gentleman that I mentioned earlier, Gary Hassan, had represented me to those events. And they contacted him, told him that they were canceling my appearance, and he called me and said, MegaCon has canceled you, or Emerald City has canceled you.
For example, when you say in your petition that Anime NYC and Anime Milwaukee canceled your appearance on January 30th, 2019, are you referring to a text message, an email, or a phone call?
Anime NYC emailed me. And what were the other ones you mentioned, sir?
Anime Milwaukee.
Anime Milwaukee. I honestly don't remember whether they called me or sent me an email.
Do you know whether you were signed up or slated to appear at Anime Milwaukee as of January 30th, 2019?
I can check my schedule. If I was canceled, I can only assume that I was scheduled to go.
And in terms of the person who would have the records of being scheduled and being canceled by a particular convention, that would be you?
Yes, well, for Anime Milwaukee, yes, sir.
Which ones did this gentleman, Gary Hassan, handle for you? Gary
Hassan only handled the pop culture events, like a multi-genre event. I never wanted him to involve himself with the anime-specific conventions, mostly because it's a completely different dynamic, and I had an ongoing, long relationship with a lot of the organizers myself, and
Fair. I take it you've testified that within a few days of your conversation on the telephone with Ms. Denbo, you had a further conversation with the folks at Funimation where they communicated to you that they were terminating your relationship. Fair?
No, sir. I did not speak with Funimation. A couple of days after my initial conversation with Ms. Denbo, she called me back, and there was someone else on the line, a gentleman. I don't remember his name. And they were the ones on the phone that informed me that my employment with Funimation was terminated.
Was Karen Micah on the phone?
Maybe. Possibly.
Was Zach Hall from Sony on the phone?
I don't remember the names.
What do you recall about what they told you?
They told me, quote, "We have finished reviewing the situation and concluded that your employment with Funimation is terminated effective immediately."
Now, you said employment. At the time, you had an independent contractor agreement with Funimation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You weren't like a W-2 employee where they provided you benefits. You got paid by the hour for your voice acting work. Fair?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
And then, did Funimation make any public statement at the time that it terminated you?
No, sir. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, they told me on the phone that they had no intention of making any public statement, and I didn't either.
Did you thereafter make any public statements about the social media uproar situation that was going on?
Relating to what specifically?
Relating to Funimation's termination of the relationship.
No, sir. I was rather ashamed. I was embarrassed.
Got it. You have a personal Twitter account, I take it?
Yes, sir.
And you, from time to time, have issued tweets that relate to the social media uproar that we've been talking about today. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lemoyne asked you some questions about this subject matter. I don't really want to go into it in detail, but my understanding from looking at these posts and some of the tweets is that there was quite a bit of turmoil and strife between the Kick Vic supporters and the I Stand With Vic supporters. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Were you concerned about that at any time?
Yes, I was.
So what's the next exhibit number?
24.
24? Can I have the sticker? Guys, I'll show you. My friend here is going to show you exhibit 24. Is this a tweet that you published on February 8th, 2019?
I assume so, yes.
In your tweet, you say that it has come to your attention that there have been threats made toward others by fans in support of me. See that?
Yes, sir.
What are you referring to there?
I had heard, just through the normal, gossip and interaction, that people were making threatening statements. Bless you. I had not seen any of those statements. I honestly don't even know if such statements ever existed. I never saw any, but all you need to do is tell me, hey, your fans have threatened to do this, and I tweeted, hey, don't do that.
Don't do that, Vic.
Part of the point of this February 8th tweet is to let any folks who might be engaged in threatening or intimidating behavior that they shouldn't do that. Fair?
Let me be clear, perfectly clear. I would never condone that.
And that's in fact what you say in the tweet?
Yes, sir.
And do you know if this particular tweet had any effect on that sort of online fighting that was going on?
I don't know. I hope so.
Counselor, this should be 27, not 24.
Do we need to remark
Well,
it?
let's just write 20.
He ended at 26, and you were filling in a gap.
Is mine okay? Or is
Yeah,
this-
just write 27 on it. The record will reflect.
Is it okay? Am I allowed to do this?
Yeah.
You're right.
Now, we spent a lot of time today talking about Monica Rial and Jamie Markey. What is it that you allege that Funimation did to harm you or to defame you?
after, well, first of all, I don't believe they really had any legitimate reason to do what they did. After the conversation ended with Miss Denbo, I honestly believed that when they called me back, they were going to say, you're on some kind of probation for a year, you know what I mean? And if we have any other complaints, then, you know what I mean? That's really what I thought would happen. So when they terminated me, you know, I was surprised, to say the least. And the last thing she said was, like I mentioned earlier, we're not going to be making any public statements. And then a week later, roughly, a week or 10 days later, Funimation, someone at Funimation, from Funimation's account, tweeted that I was being replaced, and they continued to tweet that they don't condone sexual harassment, which, you know, any reasonable person would infer that that's what they were terminating me for. And that did an enormous amount of damage.
Let me ask you, let's look at Exhibit 7. It should be in that notebook in front of you.
Good answer.
Is that the February 11 Funimation tweet, Exhibit 7?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does Funimation anywhere in that Twitter thread use the word sexual?
Doesn't matter.
No, sir.
Do you know whether Funimation condones any kind of harassment or threatening behavior being directed at anyone?
They do. Say yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think you testified earlier that with respect to the first tweet on this page, Exhibit 7, there's nothing untrue about that particular statement. Fair?
Yes, that was just a statement of fact that I had been recast in that show.
And then looking at the subsequent tweets, you would agree with me that there's nothing untrue about the following statement. Part of our core mission is to celebrate the diversity of the anime community and to share our love for this genre and its positive impact on all. Fair? Nothing untrue about that.
Nothing what about it?
There's nothing untrue about that.
I can't speak to what Funimation's core mission is. I mean, only Funimation can do that.
Okay, fair. Do you share that core mission yourself?
Absolutely.
And with respect to the second sentence of the next tweet, which I think is clarified at the bottom, Funimation makes the statement, we do not condone any kind of harassment or threatening behavior being directed at anyone. You see that?
Yes, sir.
They don't mention Vic Mignogna in that sentence at all, do they?
No, sir.
And what your argument is that you must infer that they're referring to your conduct. Fair?
Yes, sir.
Now, is this the only public statement that Funimation has made about the Vic Mignogna situation that you're aware of?
As far as I know, yes.
Certainly from February 11th, 2019 to today, there have not been any other tweets by Funimation that you're aware of. Fair?
No, sir.
Let me ask a few follow-up questions here, and I think we can wrap this up. If a particular convention terminated you before February 11th, 2019, you would have to agree that that particular convention did not terminate you because of Funimation's tweet. Fair?
Not necessarily.
Why do you say that?
Well, if someone from Funimation privately contacted a convention and said, we're not going to sponsor your show if you have this guy, and then the convention contacts me and says, we're not having you. Now, I don't know that that happened, but I don't know that it didn't. So not necessarily.
Well, assuming that didn't happen, and the only public statement by Funimation about its termination of you is this February 11th tweet, then Funimation's communication could not have caused the termination of a convention that occurred to you before February 11th. Fair?
No, I'm not going to assume that that didn't happen.
Do you have any personal knowledge of any such event occurring?
Yes. Yes,
Not
you
yet.
do.
But I have been, as I mentioned earlier, I have heard rumblings from the convention community and organizers and Gary Hassan that a sponsor, a large sponsor who was fostering relationship with one of the large convention organizers put enormous pressure on the conventions not to have me.
John?
Yes.
I don't think he understood the question. If I could jump in, he's asking, did the tweet itself, just the tweet, cause any damage before it was sent out?
Right.
No, I thought, no.
Yeah, okay, so let me back up, because it was a long question. That's a long question.
If Funimation couldn't have had any involvement before the tweet, and my answer is sure they could, privately in closed back channels.
Right, but in terms of what you know, you don't know any specific conduct by Funimation that occurred privately in back channels to somehow stymie you from getting a convention job or keeping a convention job. Fair?
No, not fair.
I'm so sorry, John. Please say it again.
It sounds to me like you've heard rumors or you've made assumptions that Funimation may have done something privately as a sponsor of a convention to get you canceled. Fair?
Yes, sir.
Other than rumors, do you have any other evidence of that sort of behavior by Funimation?
Not at present.
Who at Funimation would even do that?
I don't know people at
I would
Funimation
encourage
backstab
you
me.
to look at some of the statements made by Monica Rial and Jamie Markey and Ron Toy talking about Funimation this and Funimation that and Funimation knows this and everybody at Funimation that, and I mean they have you know what's the word I'm looking for, brandished the Funimation name and you know, and I'm quite certain. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I can only again I can only assume. I think a reasonable person would assume that there were entities at Funimation that did not like me for whatever reason and wanted me gone. Did not want me to play the character Broly that I'd been playing for 15 years. And so to ask me the question, your question was who at Funimation would do that?
Well, when you
I think it's been established there are people at Funimation that don't like me much and wanted me gone.
Well, when you say that there are people at Funimation who don't like you much and wanted you gone, who are you referring to specifically?
Chris Sabat.
Is he a Funimation employee?
I would say he has a great deal of weight at Funimation. A great deal of weight.
You could have just stopped at weight, Vic. He's a fatso.
And I mean, yes, he is probably. Funimation outsources production to his studio. Chris Sabat has been involved with Funimation since Funimation was in the Frost Bank building on 820 when I started working there. So Chris Sabat, for one.
Who else?
I would say other voice actors and directors.
Can you name names?
Do I have to? I mean,
yeah,
I'm not a name namer. I'm not that kind of a person.
This is kind of a bridge burning exercise we're going through, so let's burn the bridges. Who else?
Yeah, the bridge is kind of burned, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say. This is my chance to ask you questions.
Yeah, do it.
Who besides Chris Sabat at Funimation?
Monica Rial, Jamie Markey, Damon Mills, Sarah Weidenhefty. God, anybody else who's ever said anything? Chris Rager, Josh Martin. I mean, I know these people are unimportant.
I would
DC
wager
Douglas,
that voice actors like
John Schemmel,
Monica Rial, Jamie Markey, J. Michael Tatum, by their own admission on the Twitter storm, the other voice actors that have been employed by Funimation for many, many years. Mike McFarland, Colleen Klinkenbeard, Damon Mills, Sean Schimmel. See, what Funimation may not get is that these voice actors have been employed by them for many years, and when they speak, the public at large sees Funimation.
Got it. Is Ron Toy a voice actor?
No, sir.
What is he? What does he do for a living?
I don't know.
Does he have any business type of relationship with Funimation?
I don't know. I don't even really know him.
So do you ever go to Funimation? When you were working for Funimation, I take it you would occasionally go to their studios?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see Ron there?
Not to my recollection. Unless I passed him in the course of, in the hallway. He's Monica's boyfriend. That's his connection here, as far as I know.
Okay, so in terms of what you know about Ron's connection to Funimation, it is that Ron is Monica Rial's boyfriend.
That's my only knowledge of Ron Toy.
And to your knowledge, Monica is a voice actor who occasionally works on an hourly basis for Funimation. Fair?
No, sir. She works a lot for many years and has directed at Funimation. I would
similar to your relationship with Funimation that you talked about earlier.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Oh my God.
Reserve witness.
And we're going off the record at 5:39.
Thanks, too.
生きるリバサイガスの吹き溜まりはまちまったやつほど口が悪いここじゃ成功ってやつ雲隠れ俺たちの未来と空のいるワークメイク吹き変わりしきつだね全速で前してみた向かって神様をつけた最低限なら書き残すこの目しか見れない経験のな名前だけこの決意に甘えはねえ